Imagine for a moment that you are standing in line with a lottery ticket in your hand, heart racing at the thought of possibility. Yet I tell you, the true ticket is not the one printed on paper, but the consciousness you carry within. You are holding the winning number. Every time you dare to believe in yourself, every time you assume that what you desire is already yours, the jackpot is not sold in stores. It is born in imagination, and it pays out in the currency of your faith. The numbers have already been drawn, and they are written in your inner vision. You are your own lottery ticket, and tonight I will show you how to cash it in. Imagination is the fountain from which all manifestations flow, and it is not a distant faculty, but the very core of your being. You have been trained to believe that life is governed by luck, that events unfold by chance, and that wealth or opportunity is given only to the fortunate few. Yet what I tell you now overturns that belief entirely. Nothing in your outer world arrives by accident. Everything is born first within. The house, the car, the job, the relationship, the very money you desire, all must take root in imagination before it can ever appear in form. Just as an architect first sketches his vision before the bricks are laid, so too must you sketch in the theater of your mind the life you long to live. This sketch is not idle fantasy, but the blueprint of reality itself. To imagine is to create. What you dare to hold firmly in the silence of your mind will harden into fact in the visible world. The man who buys a lottery ticket hopes that chance will smile upon him. He stares at a number on a slip of paper and waits for the world outside to favor him. But the awakened one no longer hopes, for he knows he is not subject to chance. He understands that the numbers are not drawn in some distant chamber, but in his own consciousness. He may hold no ticket at all, yet his assumption of wealth is more powerful than 1,000 games of chance. For life is not governed by blind luck, it is governed by law. That law is imagination. What you see inwardly with conviction becomes the seed planted in the soil of reality, and in its season, it must blossom. There is no escape from this truth. If you persist in imagining yourself poor, unlucky, or excluded, you have purchased that experience in the storehouse of consciousness, and life delivers it without fail. But if you dare to imagine yourself wealthy, chosen, and victorious, you have purchased the winning number, and in due time, life presents it in full detail. To awaken to imagination as cause is to become free from fear of circumstances. Many live as prisoners of the outer world, reacting to appearances, and believing that external events control their destiny. But appearances are nothing more than the reflection of inner assumptions. When you look in a mirror, you do not attempt to change the reflection by scratching at the glass. You change yourself, and the reflection adjusts without resistance. In the same way, the world is a mirror. If you wish to change your fortune, you must not plead with the mirror of life. You must alter the inner image you carry. Imagination is the brush, and feeling is the paint with which you design the canvas of tomorrow. Every outer lottery ticket may be lost, but your inner ticket, once chosen, cannot fail. This truth reveals why it is futile to wait for luck. Luck is a name given to unrecognized law. Those who stumble into success without knowing why call it luck. But those who know the secret call it law. It is no accident that the man who constantly imagines himself favored seems always to find opportunities, while the one who imagines himself cursed finds doors closed. Each has selected a state in imagination, and life, being no respecter of persons, faithfully outpictures that state. You cannot receive wealth while imagining poverty, just as you cannot reap corn while planting thorns. The seed is imagination, and the harvest is experience. If you would win the great prize of life, you must plant the seed of victory, of wealth, of joy, and persist in tending it with feeling until it blooms. To imagine is not to daydream. Daydreams are weak and fleeting, but true imagination is clothed in feeling. To imagine effectively is to feel yourself already in possession of the thing desired. It is to enter the scene inwardly and experience it as though it were true now. If you would imagine wealth, you do not merely think of money, you feel the ease of financial freedom, you taste the delight of abundance. You hear the inner conversations of those congratulating you on your success. This sensory richness convinces the subconscious, and once convinced, the subconscious brings it forth into your world. The outer world does not resist such conviction. It bends to it, for consciousness is the only reality. What you dare to accept inwardly as fact will in time be fact outwardly. This leads us naturally into the recognition that faith is not passive, but active possession. The common man believes faith to be waiting, hoping, pleading for something to arrive from outside. He waits for fortune to smile, for doors to open, for someone to bless him. Yet this waiting is the very denial of faith, for it affirms that he does not yet have. To beg for what you desire is to confess its absence. True faith is the refusal to beg, for true faith already holds. When you assume the state of the wish fulfilled, you no longer stand in hope. You stand in certainty. You do not ask whether it will happen, for you know it is already accomplished in the unseen. Faith is not the empty expectation of a future gift. It is the confident possession of a present reality. To illustrate, consider the man who truly believes he holds a winning ticket. He does not beg the cashier to pay him. He knows the prize is his. He rests in assurance and approaches with confidence. In the same way, when you assume the state of wealth, you cease asking and begin thanking. You stop repeating prayers of need and begin offering prayers of gratitude. Gratitude is the language of possession, and possession is the mark of faith. When you give thanks for what you already have in consciousness, you signal to life that the matter is settled, and life responds by arranging itself accordingly. The man who thanks before receiving has already received, for his gratitude proves the possession is real in his inner world. Faith requires that you abandon the identity of lack. Many continue to rehearse stories of why they cannot succeed, why money eludes them, why luck passes them by. Every such story is a garment of poverty, to wear it is to block the flow of wealth. But when you dare to strip off those garments and clothe yourself in the feeling of success, even when evidence is absent, you align yourself with the law. It may feel unnatural at first, for the senses will argue that nothing has changed. Yet faith ignores the senses and insists on the unseen reality. Faith does not wait for evidence. It produces evidence. To dwell in the feeling of the wish, fulfilled, is to ignite the creative power within you, and once ignited, nothing in the outer world can extinguish it. You are not asked to strain or to force results. Faith is rest, not effort. To assume the state is not to struggle, but to relax into the certainty of possession. The man who clutches at the outer world in desperation has no faith, for he still believes the power lies outside him. But the one who quietly assumes the end, who falls asleep in the joy of already having, demonstrates the deepest faith. He does not need to see immediate results, for he knows the results are sure. Just as the seed planted today is not visible tomorrow, yet continues to grow unseen, so too the assumption, held faithfully in consciousness, unfolds without fail. Faith rests in the invisible, trusting that the unseen will inevitably become seen. To cultivate such faith, you must train your inner speech. For faith is not only what you feel in moments of quiet meditation, but what you whisper to yourself throughout the day. If your inner speech continues to complain, to doubt, to anticipate failure, then your faith is divided. But when your inner speech aligns with the assumption of possession, when you catch yourself saying inwardly, "I am wealthy, I am favored, I am chosen," then faith is strengthened. These inner declarations are not vain repetitions. They are the very currency of creation. Each time you affirm inwardly from the end, you are buying another share in the company of your desire, and soon the dividends will appear in the outer world. Thus faith is not waiting but possessing. It is not asking but receiving. It is not hoping but knowing. To walk in faith is to live already as the one you desire to be. This is the power that transforms imagination from idle fancy into reality. Without faith, imagination is a fleeting picture. With faith, it is a decree from God. Faith clothes imagination with the feeling of reality, and what is felt as real will in time become real. This is why the scriptures declare that all things are possible to him that believes. Belief is the inner possession, the quiet conviction that refuses to be swayed by appearances. When you possess inwardly, you inevitably possess outwardly. A man may purchase ticket after ticket, chasing numbers and hoping that chance will at last favor him. Yet he remains in the same condition because his inner state has not changed. You can gamble endlessly on the outer world, but unless the state within shifts, the result will remain the same. The true game is not played with paper and numbers. It is played in consciousness. When you finally understand that the source of fortune is not outside, but within, you discover that there is no real losing number when the inner conviction is secured. The world reflects not chance, but assumption. Every win and every loss is a mirror of an inner arrangement. If you persist in imagining yourself unlucky, your efforts will match that expectation, and life will bend to fulfill it. But if you quietly accept within that you are favored, that wealth is already yours, the seeming randomness of life bends itself to honor that inner decree. The outer lottery is a symbol, a dramatization of the deeper truth. It captures the imagination because it presents the possibility of sudden transformation, of waking one morning to find everything changed. Yet that transformation is not waiting on a ball to be drawn or a number to appear. It is waiting on you to choose a new state. Every state of consciousness is already complete in itself. There is a state of wealth, a state of joy, a state of abundance, just as there is a state of poverty and limitation. You are always inhabiting some state, and your outer life is simply the expression of that state. If you live in the state of lack, no lottery ticket will free you, for even if you briefly win, the state will draw you back to poverty. But if you shift to the state of wealth, even without a ticket, the world must deliver the evidence of that wealth in forms you could never predict. The shift within is permanent. The paper slips are temporary. To realize this is to stop chasing shadows and begin owning the substance. The greatest secret is that consciousness never fails to outpicture itself. It may take forms you did not anticipate. It may arrange itself in ways you could not have planned, but the state you dwell in will always take form. This is why those who depend on luck are often disappointed, while those who depend on inner conviction seem to move through life with doors opening at every turn. They may never buy a ticket, but they still win again and again because their inner lottery has already been decided. They have assumed the end, and life, which must mirror consciousness, conforms to that decision. Once you grasp this, you are free from the anxiety of chance. You no longer tremble when numbers are drawn, for you know the true number has already been selected within. You walk in calm assurance, knowing that your inner choice governs all. Every person you see, every circumstance you encounter, is drawn into your orbit by the state you occupy. You cannot meet wealth while living in poverty of spirit. You cannot encounter opportunity while rehearsing inner defeat. Life does not discriminate, it simply reflects. This is why the inner state is the only thing that matters. When you stand in conviction of wealth, opportunities rise out of nowhere. People appear to assist, doors open unexpectedly. The world rearranges itself, not because luck has favored you, but because law has honored you. To ignore this is to remain bound to a wheel of chance, forever hoping and seldom receiving. To embrace it is to step into mastery, where you know that every moment of inner selection is a claim upon the outer world. The lottery of life is already won when you dare to assume the winning state within. As you observe your own experience, you will notice that the true winners are not necessarily the most educated, the most qualified, or the most connected. They are the ones who carry within them a quiet conviction of worthiness. They may not say it aloud, but inwardly they move as though success belongs to them. They assume favor. They walk in a sense of ownership, and life responds accordingly. Contrast this with those who constantly complain, who affirm daily that nothing works out for them, who rehearse stories of failure. These stories are their losing numbers, and they call them again and again. Yet each can change in a moment, if only they will change the inner narrative. When the inner number shifts, the outer world has no choice but to match. This is why the outer lottery can never guarantee freedom, but the inner one never fails. You already hold the winning ticket, if only you will recognize it. This understanding leads naturally into the power of inner speech, for it is through inner conversation that states are maintained. You speak to yourself unceasingly. Every thought is a sentence. Every feeling is an inner dialogue. These whispers, so quiet you may not even notice them, are the very language of creation. When you mutter to yourself that nothing ever works out, you are writing on the scroll of destiny. When you sigh inwardly that money always slips away, you are casting the numbers of failure. Yet when you change that inner tone, when you begin to converse as the one already blessed, already wealthy, already successful, the entire atmosphere of your life changes. Life bends to your inner decree, for it is powerless to resist the conviction of your own word. Consider how you speak inwardly when you imagine wealth. Do you congratulate yourself? Do you hear the voices of friends in your mind celebrating with you? Do you taste the delight of freedom, the ease of abundance? Or do you cancel it all by muttering, "It is impossible. It never works for me. I am unlucky"? That muttering is the counter ticket, the losing number you stamp upon yourself. But when you deliberately change the inner conversation, even when outer evidence is absent, you have begun to shift the tide. Inner speech is not idle. It is the sowing of seeds. Every word you whisper within will grow, whether you intend it or not. You cannot plant thorns and reap roses. If you want roses, you must plant roses. If you want wealth, you must speak wealth. If you want favor, you must decree favor. The decree is not wasted breath. It is the code by which reality orders itself. This is why Scripture declares, "You shall decree a thing, and it shall be established unto you." The decree is the inner word, not the outer one. The words you speak aloud may impress others, but the words you whisper inwardly impress the subconscious, and the subconscious creates the world. You may say aloud that you are wealthy, but if inwardly you continue to mutter of lack, then lack remains. The outer speech is performance, but the inner speech is law. To master life, You must master the hidden conversation of the self. You must catch yourself in the act of muttering poverty and replace it with whispers of abundance. You must silence the voice of fear and awaken the voice of faith. It may feel unnatural at first, but persistence will plant the new seed, and once planted, it must grow. You will notice the change first in subtle ways. A sense of ease begins to surround you. Opportunities that once passed you by now appear. People treat you differently, responding to the vibration you carry. What has changed? Not the outer world, but your inner decree. You have shifted the language within, and life cannot help but echo it. Just as a song played on the radio vibrates through the air and is received by those tuned to its frequency, so your inner speech sends out a vibration that tunes the world around you. When you sing the song of wealth inwardly, those who carry wealth are drawn into your orbit. When you sing the song of favor, doors of favor open. When you sing the song of joy, joy multiplies. This is not wishful thinking. It is law, and the law cannot be broken. To neglect inner speech is to forfeit power. Most live unaware of the constant dialogue within, and so they drift, wondering why life repeats the same patterns. But the awakened one becomes attentive. He listens to the whispers, corrects them when they betray him, and persistently implants the words of victory. He does not wait for the world to change before he changes his song. He changes the song first. Knowing the world must follow. This is the discipline and the gift of consciousness. It costs nothing but awareness, and it pays dividends beyond imagination. For when the inner decree is aligned with the state of wealth, there is no outer lottery to fear. The winning number is already called, and life cannot help but display it. When one truly grasps the power of living from the end, the entire outlook of life shifts. Consider the man who holds in his hand a ticket that has already been declared the winning number. His behavior changes instantly. He does not tremble with doubt. He does not check the paper again and again with fear in his heart, for he knows the prize is his. Though the money has not yet been deposited into his account, though he has not yet walked into the bank to claim it, he celebrates in spirit because possession in consciousness is enough. He sleeps with ease, he walks with joy, and his mind is filled with images of the abundance that is already his. This is the posture you must adopt in your own life, not waiting for the evidence to appear before celebrating, but celebrating now in consciousness. When you practice living from the end, you summon into being the very conditions that prove you were right to believe all along. To live from the end is to stop rehearsing the old story of lack and begin rehearsing the story of fulfillment. Each night as you lay upon your bed, instead of worrying about tomorrow, you step into the scene of already having what you desire. If it is wealth, you imagine the weight of abundance, the ease of freedom, the relief of bills already paid, the laughter of those who rejoice with you. You hear the conversations that would take place if it were true. You see yourself in possession of all you once longed for. And most importantly, you feel it natural. For it is not enough to imagine vaguely. The secret is to feel the imaginal act so deeply that it seems to be your present reality. When you saturate yourself in that feeling, your subconscious accepts it as fact. And once accepted, it must outpicture itself in the outer world. The world does not argue with the subconscious. It yields to it. This practice requires a shift in attention. Most people live from the outer to the inner, allowing circumstances to dictate their state of mind. They wait for money to arrive before feeling abundant, for health to improve before feeling whole, for relationships to change before feeling loved. But living from the end is the reverse. It is taking the feeling of the wish, fulfilled now, regardless of appearances, and allowing appearances to catch up. This is the daring act of faith. It is declaring that what you have assumed inwardly is more real than what the senses presently show. The senses may declare lack, but the imagination declares abundance, and imagination, being the creative power, will in time overrule the senses. To persist in this posture is to transform your life from the inside out. It is important to understand that living from the end is not about forcing or pretending. It is about relaxing into the reality of your assumption. You are not straining to make it so. You are resting in the knowledge that it already is so. Just as the man with the winning ticket rests in joy, you too rest in the conviction that your desire is accomplished. This rest is the surest sign of faith. Struggle is the mark of doubt, but rest is the mark of conviction. When you can close your eyes and fall asleep in the ease of already being the one you long to be, you have fulfilled the law. In that sleep, the subconscious is impressed, and once impressed, it creates without effort on your part. The imagination creates the state, the subconscious accepts it, and life reflects it. This is the true cycle of creation. The beauty of this method is that it does not depend on the means. You are not asked to figure out how your desire will come to pass. You are asked only to assume the end and live in it. The means are the concern of the law, not of you. The world will shuffle itself in ways you could not predict to bring about the fulfillment of your assumption. You may receive an unexpected opportunity, meet someone who plays a crucial role, stumble into circumstances that align perfectly with your vision. To you, it may appear as coincidence, but in truth, it is law working faithfully to honor the state you have occupied. Living from the end frees you from anxiety about how and when, for you rest in the certainty that it already is. When you understand this, you realize that you are not at the mercy of chance. You are not a beggar waiting for fortune to notice you. You are the master selector of states. You may choose tonight to live in the end of wealth, to walk in the assurance of abundance, to rest in the joy of accomplishment. Each moment you dwell in that state, you are writing your future. The outer world will conform, for it has no choice but to mirror the inner. This is the secret that liberates you from the endless waiting, from the anxious hoping, from the belief that only others are favored. You are already favored when you assume the end. You are already chosen when you rest in the feeling of fulfillment. And finally, you come to the recognition that the power to create does not lie outside you, but within you. You have been taught to look to external sources for blessing, to depend on luck, to wait for another to select your number. But the truth is that you are the one who selects. And you select not with paper or numbers, but with imagination and feeling. You are not separate from the power that governs the universe. You are that power expressing itself. Every assumption you dare to make is a command to the unseen to arrange itself accordingly. You are the operant power. Nothing happens without your consent, for your consent is given by the state you occupy. To say that you are your own lottery ticket is to declare that the prize has always been within, waiting only for your recognition. This realization is the greatest treasure. It means that you are never without hope, never truly without resource, for the source is in you. The wealth of the world is but the shadow of an inner state. When you dare to assume the state of wealth, you summon that shadow into form. You no longer need to chase opportunities, for they are drawn to you. You no longer need to plead for favor, for you become the embodiment of favor. You no longer need to gamble on chance, for you have already secured the winning number within yourself. This is the law of consciousness, and it is absolute. When you accept that the power is you, fear dissolves. You cease worrying about missed chances, about numbers not drawn, about doors that seemed closed. You realize that every door opens when you select the right state. Life is not something happening to you. It is something happening through you. Each assumption is a seed. And the garden of your world reveals which seeds you have planted. If you dislike the harvest, you do not curse the field, you change the seed. You withdraw attention from the state you no longer wish to occupy, and you give attention to the state you desire. By doing so, you plant anew, and the harvest must follow. This is the eternal promise as within, so without. To live in this awareness is to walk with power. You rise each day not wondering whether fortune will find you, but knowing that fortune is already yours. You speak inwardly with confidence. You rest in certainty. You walk in joy. The outer world may not shift immediately, but you are unshaken, for you know that the invisible is already established. You persist, and in persistence the outer must bend. Nothing can resist the conviction of the inner man. Nothing can deny the assumption held in faith. You are the cause, you are the power, you are the winning ticket.